Hey, everybody, it's Mark Pattison. I'm back again with another great episode of Finding Your Summit, all about people overcoming adversity and finding their way. And before we get into today's amazing guest, I want to draw attention once again to my website, www.markpattisonnfl.com. And there you can find the NFL movie premiere that came out, Searching for the Summit. It's an amazing film, 30 minutes. And the thing I loved about it is that it's not necessarily a climbing film about Mark. It's really a film about a guy who was going through a rough patch, got clarity in the mountains, and then was able to turn back around and help his daughter who has epilepsy. And so you can find a link there to the documentary that was shown, which is really cool. And while you're at it, please go to the philanthropy tab. Amelia's Everest goes on today. People continue to donate towards that wonderful cause. Ultimately, it drops down to Higher Ground, which is based here in Sun Valley, Los Angeles, and New York. And it helps many of our veterans who come back and have had a lot of issues with adaptive therapy, which means getting out in nature and doing active things to give that sense of empowerment. And we all need that at the end of the day. I am going down to Ecuador to climb a big mountain down there in December to celebrate a big birthday for me. So there'll be more on that. If people want to follow my journey, and of course, all the social channels are around that as well. And as always, we've got hundreds of podcasts. Please go in and give a ratings and review. It helps elevate the popularity of these shows so other people just like me can be inspired. Okay? Go to it. Thank you. All right. So let's move on to today's guest. She is a rock star in the climbing world. And I hope I say this right. Shailee Basnet of Nepal. Shailee, how are you doing?
I'm very good. Thank you. How are you?
I'm doing great. And I'm doing great because I'm talking to another seven summiteer. I'm not sure if I just made up that word, but you are a seven summiteer like me, like a Mountaineer. And together, not together exactly, but we have both climbed the seven summits, but you've got your own unique story. And I want to get into it. I was really inspired by that because I think on a lot of different levels, you've kind of broken new ground, new territory, not only from somebody from Nepal who, as a woman who climbed the seven summits, and of course, the biggest mountain in the world is in your backyard, Mount Everest, which I just got off of, but also where you were able, I think if I got the story right, where you really wanted to create, I use this word again, empowerment for finding seven, there was a total of seven women who decided to do seven summits. So where did this whole idea come from? And from my experience of being in Nepal, it's definitely, to me at least, it was definitely a male dominated, it is a male dominated society. And so for a girl to stand up and say, you know what, I want to go do this and I'm going to conquer something that most of the guys do over there is really bold and really strong. And, I've got a lot of respect for you. So where did this whole thing come from?
So the journey started in 2007, and that was the year when there were actually two Sherpa men, Dagumbu Sherpa and Pemba Dorji Sherpa. They'd been climbing partners and climbing many mountains together. So together they came up with the idea of organizing an expedition for Nepali women to climb Mount Everest. And till 2007, there were only 7 Nepali women who had scaled Everest. So like you said, we have the mountain in our backyard, but Nepali women didn't have much access to that mountain. Mountaineering was super unconventional for Nepali women. Although we grow up, for those who are born in the mountains or the mid hills, we are like raised looking at the mountains. And that's why I always say mountains, like for me growing up, it was like so close yet so far away. So close that you can see it from your bedroom, but so far away that there were very few before you were there. So nobody expected us to be climbers or, I don't know, prime minister of the country or anything crazy like that. So these men came up with this idea, and there were 10 of us, Nepali women, who signed up. So it was under their leadership we came together. And long story short, there was a lot of apprehension. There had never been a team of 10 Nepali women. I think there have been very few women team of any country or, So there was a lot of apprehension about our team. People were betting how many of us were going to die, etc., etc. And fundraising was super challenging. But fortunately, we had the funds. We had some band of great supporters. We climbed the 7 summits. We climbed Everest. And as you would know, when you're a team, even if one person from the team makes it to the summit, you're successful as a team, right? And our goal was to increase Nepali women's access and participation in mountaineering. So we weren't fighting against each other to be on top. We knew we're a team and one person on top meant success for all of us. So we went with that very clear goal, but fortunately, all 10 of us reached the summit of Everest, which is kind of a rare success in mountaineering. And we're probably the largest and most successful women's team to be on Everest. We were celebrated, got a hero's welcome. And then I like to say we got a little full of ourselves. And we were like, why stop now? So that's how the 7 Summits journey started. And I took up the leadership of the team. And we continued with the original team, members from the original team. We continued the 7 Summits journey. For those people who like to get technical, I actually haven't made it to the summit of all 7 summits. I was the leader. But as a team, we completed that mission of climbing the 7 summits as a women team.
Okay, that's really interesting. So, one of the things, it just is what it is. And you are now here married in the United States, living in Colorado. And as you said before we went live, there's things you like about it and also some crazy things that you've observed. And one of the things that I, really appreciated is that Nepal as a country is not a super wealthy country, right? And so it's a challenge for a lot of people and how they're going to make their money. And certainly the pandemic put a lot of strain on a lot of people that are out there. And so when you were talking, just because I know, because I've done it now, I've done the 7 summits around. I've actually been on 2. I've climbed Kilimanjaro twice, and I've climbed Denali. I've been on Denali twice, summited once. But the bottom line is that every single time you sign up and you go do these things, it costs money. And it is not cheap, no matter how, whatever operator you decide to go, whether they're expensive or not expensive, it's still money. And in Nepal, people struggle in terms of how they're going to make their dollar. And so I'm interested in, from you, and I think you sort of said it, but there might've been some fundraising, or there was some, were these Nepalese companies that were helping you out, or were these individuals, or were they from other countries that help make this dream possible for you?
Thank you for asking that question. A lot of people don't. There were times when we truly felt fundraising was way more challenging than climbing mountains. And I want to be very careful saying this, because I do not mean any disrespect for mountains. People die climbing mountains. Very few people do it. It's a daunting, challenging task. And I get it. I've turned around from mountains for my safety and etc. And yet, when we would get to the mountain, that would be our de-stress time. That would be like, even when we had to turn around, even when the weather was bad, those were the good part of the mission. Fundraising was so challenging. First, when we started with Everest, it did not help that we're women, we're young, we're petite. You can't see it in the video, but my joke is when people ask me how tall I am, I tell them I'm 5 feet tall on a good day. I'm slightly short. So it did not help our case at all. So a lot of people didn't believe in us, which affected their decisions with writing checks. So for Everest, there was a big challenge. Fortunately, we had the government of Nepal support us. United Nations World Food Program agency in Nepal was our first big supporter. And once we had them on board, turns out in fundraising world, once you have a big name behind you, kind of others, have positive opinion of you. So slowly we started having other organizations that supported us, not so much from private sector. Private sector never was a big part of our financial supporting team. And the reason in retrospect is because when we were doing this, 2007, 8, 9, 10 onwards, the world was going through a recession and Nepal was going through big political, big change. Like we became a republic from a monarchy, we're writing constitution. And now I understand that these things matter in the business world. And, these are not the times when big businesses take out money to support something like we're doing. I understand that now, but back in the day, it hurt. I didn't understand. I was just young and, like I wanted to go climb. And there were times when you had to keep postponing our climbs. So in short, United Nations World Food Program has been our big supporter, government of Nepal, and there are many, I won't be able to name all of them, the umbrella organization, Nepal Mountaineering Association, Trekking Agencies Association of Nepal, Nepal Tourism Board. So these are all government or semi-government organizations. Usually in developing countries, you hear that, government does not support artists or climbers or, sports people. Our case is exactly the opposite. The biggest check ever came from the government of Nepal. So we're very thankful about that.
Yeah, that's really interesting. What part of Nepal did you grow up in, and how high was that village, assuming that you didn't grow up necessarily in Kathmandu, which is a big bustling city?
So interestingly, I did grow up in Kathmandu. That's where my home is. And it is so funny when I tell people I'm from a middle-class family in Kathmandu, then people have this certain idea, right? When you say middle class. So it was not a village. It's the capital of the country. It's a city.
Yeah,
I'm a city girl. But the house I was born and I, was in until high school was a mud brick, bamboo top, and it was a 3-story house. So it means we have 2 layers of those, bamboo ceilings. And I say that we were a household of 5 human beings and 500 rats. There were rats everywhere. And I'm not afraid of rat. My husband, who's this, super mountain biker and everything, he sees a rat, mouse, and he's like, 20 feet away. I'm like, it's just a rat. So that was my childhood. We walked maybe 20 minutes to go to school, and those were, I don't know what you call them in English, those narrow strip of like just walking path in the middle of a paddy field. That's where we walked to go to school, and that was the city. So
well, I mean, there's a couple of observations. So one of the things that I was blown away at is, I live in Sun Valley, Idaho. We're at 6,000 feet, and I usually get fairly competitive about going up the mountain and racing people and all this stuff, and that's just my nature. But what I found is so many of the Nepalese guides, the Sherpa, had all grown up at 14,000 feet, 12,000 feet, 15,000 feet. And they're just genetically superior to me. Like I for everything I did to keep up, like I was huffing and puffing, and I couldn't do it. Over time, I could not keep that pace. I couldn't do, and they were just as happy as could be going up and down. And I struggled, here and there. And it just was really interesting because most of the guys were half my size, yet, had twice the strength.
Right.
And on all things equal, I'm twice as big as they are, double their strength. But in the mountain, in those settings, that altitude really becomes the equalizer. It's really interesting.
Right. That's true. And I somewhere I read that there was some research which showed that Highlanders, they actually people born and, who've been in high altitude for a long time, they have bigger lungs. There's some research that says that. And so you're born there. This is, I think there is that genetic advantage, but there's also the advantage of practice. So the Sherpa guides who work on the mountains, we really say Sherpas are the, kings or the rulers of the mountains. Without their help, it will be very hard for other people to do it. But they've been doing it again and again and again for so long. So obviously, they get really even better at it. But having said that, I also have friends who've struggled, who are Sherpas, who've worked in the mountains for many years, who were born in highland. So the thing with altitude is that every time you have to take it like your first climb. Sherpas also have to acclimate. They also have to be careful. Sometimes they're overworked. There is a whole different topic. They're overworked, underpaid. and they expect maybe too much from themselves. Other people expect too much from them. So while they are heroes of the mountains, there are also issues that concern them. And people who are not born in high altitude or don't have that genetic advantage, like you, like I, extra hard work, extra slow.
Yeah, that's just the way it is. Slow and sweaty, slow
Yeah.
and steady wins the race. So, okay, I want to go back and address something you said. So you climb Mount Everest. You got these 10 women. You go up, you come down, you get funded. It all works. You guys are on top of the world, literally and figuratively. And now you come back, and now you're celebrated by the president of Nepal. And I know you had some accolades here in the States with John Kerry. And you made this reference of, everything was going great until you guys, you girls, you ladies became full of yourself. And what did you mean by that?
So after, before Everest, there was so little expectation from us. And that's not just when we started to climb Everest. From the time we were born, I was born in an educated family of, like, my mom is a working woman. Even in my family, the best, dream they have for me was probably me getting married by my mid-20s, having kids, some kind of decent job, but nothing unconventional. So now when we decided to climb Everest, literally there was a lot of doubt, suspicion, leg pulling. People just did not believe that we could do it. So, and we didn't know how many of us would make it. How would we make it? Would there be accidents? All those questions. So when we made it, 10 on 10, 100%, no accidents. So we had that extra boost of motivation. Let's just say, we're like, oh my God, people had so little expectation from us. We didn't know what to expect from our team. And yet we had the best possible outcome that we couldn't imagine. So there was now, but it was a one climb project. There was no plan ahead. And especially the 7 of us in my team, we would meet in Tamil, you would know, and would drink black tea every day. And just we didn't want to disband, and we'd just sit there, talk about our clients, talk about how we sucked, how we succeeded, good, bad, all of that. We were just not ready to disband, and we're like, okay, let's take the leadership ourselves, and let's try climb that next mountain. We didn't have much reference or footprints to follow. We didn't know what we're doing, but we just knew we didn't want to stop. So just that confidence that came from the success on Everest, that's what I mean when I said a little full of ourselves.
Well, in 2015, and correct me if I'm wrong, but there's a massive earthquake in Nepal, right? And so, I've been just glued to the TV for all these years. I started my journey in 2013 and just recently completed it in 2021. And so in 2015, of course, I was tuned in to what was going on up at Mount Everest, and they had a couple of bad years right in a row. And there's this huge earthquake, and it wiped out a lot of people. A lot of people died. And not just on the mountain, but throughout Nepal. And that, like you described, your house is kind of mud and straw, and any house that really didn't have a solid foundation crumbled and came down. And so I want to understand about your drive to help rebuild many of the schools with some of your pals in Nepal. Like, what a great mission to take on.
Yeah, when the earthquake happened, we had just finished the 7 summits. We're yet to celebrate. I mean, we never have celebrated because there was this earthquake. And my friend Maya Gurung, we've been together since 2007, and we continue to work together till date. She's from Sindhu Palchuk district, which was the worst hit in the earthquake. The epicenter was in her home district, and a lot of people died. Maybe in that district alone, I think there are close to 600 schools, and probably there is not a single school that was either not destroyed or damaged in some way. So when the earthquake happened, everybody I know started relief and support in whatever ways they could. I tell people that I've not met a single Nepali or a single foreigner who knows of Nepal who did not support Nepal during that time. It could have been $1, it could have been one cup of tea or coffee, but everybody did what they could. So it was not just me or my team, because I mean, there was nothing else to do but to support, So we did that. We started with relief material in the beginning, and we started hearing from schools that the kids aren't coming back to school because the schools building are gone, and the kids are scared to come back to that space. So we started building these bamboo huts, kind of. They were called TLCs, temporary learning centers. So we started building a couple of those in Maya's village. I think we built 4 or 5. And there was one school in particular where for 3 years, kids just stayed in that bamboo hut thing. And during the monsoon, it will just get flooded and everything. And these are grade 1, 2, 3 kids. So it broke our heart. It was very, very sad. And the school lost its land and the building in a landslide that was triggered by the earthquake. So there's no land to build a school in. So for 3 years, we had this temporary arrangement, and we thought, oh, somebody will come, another organization or the government. That didn't happen. So eventually we decided to build the school ourselves. So it was kind of one step after another like that. We provided afternoon meal to school kids for 2 years, to around 2,000 kids every single day. And that was because the schools were like, if we don't give food or something interesting, kids are not coming back to school. There's nothing interesting going on here. So we just tried all these different things, and it worked. And I'm very happy that actually the local government of where we provided the school meals, they have now adopted the program, and they're now providing school meals to other kids. There was a big earthquake on the 17th day of the first earthquake. And after that, we heard from parents in the villages that they were like, just open the school so that we know where to look for our kids if there's another earthquake. I mean, isn't that so painful to hear? Because they're like, village is just this open ground. There is no houses. Kids could be playing like 10 kilometers away. They don't know where the kids are. They're busy trying to, rebuild or whatever. So they needed schools to open so that they would at least know where to locate their kids. So there were just a lot of all of these, damage, destruction, emotions. And fortunately, because of the Seven Summits mission, we had made friends all over the world, and they were sending in funds, resources, money, whatever they could. They were coming in and volunteering. So we just put all that together. And till date, we continue to support 4 schools. We provide them with teacher support right now.
And what was that like for you to go through that earthquake?
Personally, I was on a hike on a hill surrounding Kathmandu Valley. Tyler and I, we were never together on the morning of Saturday because he bikes and I hike. And for some reason that day, he had a friend coming from another country, and we all decided to go hike. So fortunately, we were together, and we're still on the high slope of that hill when the earthquake hit. And so we're in the middle of a forest. And during earthquake, you should not be close to trees because they might uproot, the branches might, fall and hit you. So they always tell you not to be close to trees, but we're in the middle of a forest. So we're just holding on to trees. There were 6 of us, and my head was just going around like this. And I was telling everybody, like, 360 degree, keep looking, like, see if any branches are coming our way. We're just doing that for some time. And after it stopped shaking, we continued for a little bit, and there's a clearing, and we could see the entire city, and the city was just like in a veil of dust. And there is a tower, the Harara, you're probably familiar with it. It used to be a 9-story thing. It used to be the tallest structure in Kathmandu, but not by that time. But you can see that it's an important landmark in Kathmandu. You could see that. And on our way up, we had stopped to see a river, and I saw the Harara. And when we went back, I couldn't see that structure anymore. I was like, oh my God, this is bad. So this is the big one they've been talking about, and this is really bad.
Yeah.
So we're just stuck in a forest.
Well, those are tough situations, and you got to manage through. And when I was there, it looked like Kathmandu has certainly come back, and many of the villages, and they just got to keep plowing forward. So you've been on top of Mount Everest. It's to me at least, it's so shaped who you are and your life, to date, helping others. Are you still climbing?
I've not climbed anything big in last few years. And after we finished the climbing 7 Summits mission, we got sucked into the earthquake work without any plan. or direction really for maybe 2 to 3 years. And then around maybe 2018, we kind of had some stability around that. And then we wanted to do something new and stuff. We started working with young women who are survivors of sex trafficking. So we actually started that work in 2014, but around 18, 19, we wanted to really scale it. And actually for 2020, our plan was to take 50 women who are abuse survivors, or they're called high-risk girls in Nepal, who work as maids in other people's home or in small hotels and stuff, who are still underage. So we take them under our wing, we mentor them and train them for 2 to 5 years, whatever is required, provide them anything from education, self-confidence, outdoor skills. And the long-term goal is to help them live dignified lives, get out of poverty, and find them jobs in the outdoor industry. So that's what I've been busy with my teammate, Maya. Maya and I are doing this together. And we have a friend, Sylvia, actually. She's the first woman from Peru to climb Everest, and she's first openly gay female to do the 7 summits. She might be a fun guest for you actually someday. So 3 of us, we started this survivor training program together. And I always say that my dream now is to have, our girls become this kick-ass mountain guides, and a couple of them already are. And I always tell them, you got to be so good that, one day I'll pay to be a client, and I'll be a diva client, and you'll be my guide. So I haven't climbed anything big. We've been consumed with these projects. I keep hiking, I keep trekking. I love doing that. Now that I'm in Colorado, I want to do some ice climbing in the winter.
Yeah.
Let's see how that goes. But once maybe 2023 onwards, hopefully, depending on funds and the pandemic situation and all, we want to take our trainees for bigger climbs, 6,000 meters, 7,000 meter, and I want my future clients to be part of the survivor training program. It doesn't give me a kick anymore to look at a mountain and be like, I'm going to spend $5,000 and get to the top of that mountain. It's not as exciting anymore. But if I have, let's say, if I have Maya with me, imagine if I have 2 or 3 survivor sisters with me and we all go climb. Oh, I would do anything for that.
Yeah, well, look, we all grow, we all mature, and you're looking through the right lens of life on how to turn back around and help others. It's so important, and I think we all have a duty, in the big picture of life to do that, and that's what really the meaning of life is all about, in my estimation. One last thing, because I thought this was really funny, which is one of the things, I don't know if it's a hobby or this is something that you're doing full time, but you're a stand-up comic. And I can't imagine how I think I for sure would be more terrified about getting in front of a bunch of people than climbing up the side of Mount Everest.
Yes, stand-up just started as a stress buster. I mean, heavy duty climbing and everything. And we're a group of very funny women. I'm not the funniest person in my team. All my friends are hilarious. We laugh so much on the mountains, and everybody in my family also is quite funny. I knew that I just am attracted to the attribute of laughing, and I've been curious about it from a young age. So once I started understanding that stand-up is a craft, I wanted to kind of challenge myself with that. And it has somehow, from becoming a stress buster, a side hustle, it has kind of become a career of its own. I got some good opportunities to perform at some big clubs, and it's going well. And I've also seen that Peter Hillary, actually, I had a conversation with him, and I told him that I do stand-up comedy, and I wasn't even sure if I should tell him. I mean, it's, Peter Hillary. I mean, he's, yes, Edmund Hillary's son, but he's a bona fide climber on his own right? So I was like, yeah, I also do stand-up on the side. And he was like, yeah, stand-up is probably one of the better ways to communicate with people the things that we see. And I was like, thank you for your blessing. That's exactly what I want to do. What we see, what we experience is so heavy duty that if I can communicate that through comedy, through the language of comedy, that would be such a big win-win. I keep saying, I have nothing against Kim Kardashian, but more people know about Kim Kardashian than Junko Tabe. She's the first woman to climb Everest. I'm like, I want to make Junko Tabe a household name.
Yeah.
And how am I going to do that? Comedy maybe is a better platform to do that.
Well, that's great. Listen, it's a skill, and you got to have courage. You got to have a lot of things to get up there and deliver, on that. Where can people find you?
Where can people find me? So my website is my name, ShaileeBasnet.com. I'm on all socials, Facebook, Insta, LinkedIn, a little bit on Twitter, not very active. Yeah, those are the places. I usually respond when somebody has something to say, good or bad, doesn't matter.
Yeah, I know, that's great. So we will put that in the notes and make sure that's there. But look, I have two daughters, and so I'm always inspired when I talk to other women who are out making a mark in the world. You're certainly doing that. You've been to the top of the world where I just was. Yeah, it's a special place. It's a hardcore commitment. It takes a lot, period, to be able to pull that off. And you were able to do that. And my hat's off to you, and deep respect, and keep doing the great work that you're doing to help others, around the world.
Thank you so much. I had a lot of fun sharing my story and journey with you. Thank you for having me, and lots of love to your daughters. Really, I think this is an amazing time to be a woman on this planet. There is nothing that can stop us. I did not climb because I was born, kick-ass athletic person or something. Like I said, I'm this petite person who doesn't look like a climber. I was not an athlete. I knew this was my weakness, and I worked on it. I wasn't afraid to kind of fail. And actually, that's what keeps me going in comedy too. When I fail, it sucks, it hurts, but next day I'm like, yeah, let's try that joke. So it's okay. It's okay to fail. It's okay to be whatever size, shape, mood. You are you. Let's just love yourself for being yourself. I'm really talking to your daughters right now. Yeah, keep going, girls.
All right. Well, listen, you go, girl, and keep after it. And it was a pleasure. Thank you. And I will let you know when this is going to come out. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.